Do you ever feel like a spiritual fraud? You pray at church, maybe you're on your knees, you're singing all the worship songs, and as soon as you get in the car, you start yelling at your kids. As a follower of Jesus, we want our kids to have a growing relationship with Him. We want our kids to experience the joy, the love that we experience in our relationship with God, and for them to experience it on their own. But if I can be honest with you, I've been in ministry for many years, and it feels like it's easier to lead someone outside of our home than actually lead the people in our own homes. And it's difficult because they see us, they see the behind the scenes, they see us losing our tempers, and we can feel like a spiritual fraud. Today, I want to challenge our thinking to remove that thinking that I have to be this perfect spiritual leader for my family, but instead, how can I show up to show my kids that I'm not perfect, but I have a perfect God? To show them that my faith in Jesus is not just a Sunday thing, but it's integrated in our everyday moments of life. And today I want to talk to you about faith rhythms. And the goal here is to establish this faith rhythm so that our kids' faith is not just something that they do at bedtime. It's not just something that they do on Sundays, but it's part of everyday life. When they're doing their homework, when they're hanging out with their friends, or when they're hanging out with us, or even just watching TV. So I want to talk to you about faith rhythms that can help our kids to have that growing relationship with God. You know, before, what I used to do is I feel like I need to have these perfect devotional moments with my kids. You know, I hear friends of mine who are Christians and they talk about their family devotions. And to me, I want to have that with my kids. And I really believe that those are great things. And when the season comes, I think those things are going to be very valuable, you know, to be able to talk about faith in God, to be able to dive into scriptures with our kids. But if you have kids like myself, 11 and under, you know that life happens and life can get really messy. A friend of mine gave us this devotional book. I really like it because it goes through different facts, science, current events, I believe, things like that. And then it integrates scriptures and also prompts to have this discussion with my kids. You know, when we got it, the first few days, my kids are really excited about it. They're really engaged. But like I said, life happens and someone gets sick, another child gets a meltdown, they start fighting, and you're just exhausted trying to referee, trying to make sure that they don't hurt each other. And at the end of the day, if you're like me, you feel like you're failing as a spiritual leaders. Here's a mind shift that I want us to realize today. Our kids don't need us to be seminary professor. They need a dad who will show them what walking with God looks like, even in the midst of life. So today we're going to be talking about faith rhythms. These are rhythms that we can integrate in the everyday moment of life so that we can help our kids grow in a relationship with God. Our kids don't need a flawless dad. They need a faithful one, someone who's willing to pray with them, talk about God in the car, and model what it looks like to follow Jesus when life gets messy. All right, so today I want to share with you 4 simple faith rhythms that can help you integrate your relationship with God in the everyday moments of your family's life. Hey, before we dive into the 4 rhythms, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Ezekiel. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I'm passionate about helping other dads learn how to lead better in our homes and also in our workplace so that we can add value and impact those who matter most to us. I'm talking about our wives, our kids, and also the people outside of our homes, the people we get to serve in our workplaces and also in our ministry. So rhythm number 1 that I want to talk to you about today is to start and end with prayer. Now, the goal here is not having this quiet Instagram-worthy moment, but I'm talking about showing your kids that talking to God is the same thing or is as natural as breathing. So this is what it looks like in our homes. In the morning, when they get ready for school, reminding them, hey, before you eat your food, make sure you thank Jesus for that. When we get in the car, when we get ready to drop them off at school, sometimes I'm not able to go with them to drop them off because I have to go in the office. I'll be barefoot and I'm like tiptoeing to the garage and I would just bless them. And I would just say, God bless my kids today. I pray that they will see you. I pray that you would bless them to be a blessing to their teacher, to their classmate. And as simple as that. At the end of the day, we try our best to end our night in prayers. And right now in this season of life, it gets really complicated because sometimes the kids go to their youth nights. Sometimes they have practices and things like that. But we try to get them together even for a short period of time. And I'll be honest with you, that prayer time, it's not perfect because one child, they want, hey, I want another 5 minutes. I want to talk about my day. And then my girls, they start opening up, start fighting and things like that, talking over, or while we're praying, they're just tickling each other. But the goal here is not about perfection. The goal here, it's about being consistent. The goal here is to show them that God is not just the God of, he's not just the God of Sundays, but he's also the God of our messes. It's integrating faith in the everyday moments of life. Rhythm number 2 is to make faith part of your daily rhythm. So this is how you can do this in the car, at dinner, before bed. Just drop a simple question like, hey, where did you notice God today? Or what are you thankful for right now? And don't just ask them, but model to them. Tell them where God is showing up in your life, or tell them what God is doing in your life. One of the things that God has been really working in our life for me and my wife, we love to bless other people. We have people help us in our homes. Although my wife, she can clean her home, we have someone that helps out and clean our home from time to time and also help her with our yard. Not only does it create margin for us to be able to spend time with our family, to be able to work, to be able to have ministries like this, but we're able to bless them. The finances that God has given us is able to flow through us. And my kids know that when we go to restaurants, our rule is to tip at least 20%. So they know that's a rule that we have. But I don't do this perfectly. We love to give generously, but I'm a human being too. And sometimes I want to hold on instead of dispensing that blessing. And last Saturday, after my son's basketball clinic, we decided to check out this pop-up joint, this burrito place close to our house. So we went there. We always pass by it. These hardworking people will set up shop in front of Target and they will sell burrito. So my son and I, after basketball, went there and we got a burrito. So the burrito was $13. There's no tax, and I gave $20. I got my change back. And when we were walking the car, my son said, I can't believe you just didn't just give them the whole $20. So because my son, for many years, he observed me and my wife have these faith rhythms. We talk about how the reason we're generous is because God has been good to us, and the blessing doesn't just flow to us, but it flows through us. That becomes part of his default now when it comes to generosity. And again, like I said, I say this because I'm not a perfect spiritual leader. I'm not a perfect dad, but showing you that it wasn't a Bible study that prompted my son to have that, but it's this faith rhythm of just having these discussions and modeling it to them over the years. Again, it's not about perfection. It's about progress over time. So sometimes, like I said, you'll get it right. And just like me, sometimes you'll get it wrong. And that's okay. Rhythm number 3 is to serve together. Now, I know what you're thinking. You know what? I barely have time to serve my family. How am I supposed to add serving others? I get it. For many years, I thought that the only way to serve others is to go out there in public. For many years, I've always been bivocational. I will have my full-time job, and then in the evenings and on the weekends, my wife and I will be serving in the ministry. But we're in the season right now that we're not able to do that. That's why I'm not asking you to add a big commitment, but I'm challenging you and me to have this small, consistent acts that really beat this big, sporadic acts of service. So this is what it looks like in the everyday rhythm of life. Number 1 is to pray for your neighbor. When you're praying at night, as you're closing your night with your kids, pray for someone who's sick, that you know is sick, or ask your kids, hey, who was sick in your school today? And pray for that individual. One of the things that we like to pray for is the homeless, because here in our city, when we drive, we see homeless people on the street, and we ask God as part of our prayer to bless them, to provide for them. This teaches them that prayer is an act of service. Second one is to deliver a meal to a family who maybe just had a baby or who's going through something. That's another ministry that my wife and I have for many years now is that we're sensitive with friends or family members who might be going through something, and we would deliver them or send them a meal just to bless them. And our kids see that. And just like the story I shared with you with my son, when I withheld the $7 instead of just blessing them with the $20, he called me out on that. Another one is just simple acts of service, like holding the door for someone, helping a neighbor carry groceries, or like I said, tipping generously. It shows them that these small acts teach our kids that serving isn't just something we do, it's who we are. One of the ways that we serve right now is our son, he's in martial arts. Every time he doesn't have homework, instead of him just playing iPad at home or doing something, we challenge him and we ask him to serve in the dojo. He doesn't get paid to do that, but it teaches him that service is not just something we do, it's who we are. Because at the end of the day, when we look at our Lord and Savior, he was a servant. He gave his life for us. And rhythm number 4 is rest. So I know I talked about how when my son doesn't have homework, we ask him to go to the dojo, but rest is also very important in our family. And I know when you hear this rest, some of you, even for me, we can feel guilty about resting. Like we feel like we should be doing more, we should be serving more or producing more. But here's the truth. When you rest, you're teaching your kids that their worth is not tied to productivity. That's a faith lesson that they'll carry forever. Resting teaches them that we focus on what we can control and we trust God for the results. So in our family, the expectation is that Monday through Friday, we work really hard. We tell our kids, we teach our kids that work is created by God, it's good, and that God has given us different gifts, and our responsibility is to steward those gifting that God has given us to give him the maximum glory. And also, that's a way for us to love and serve others. The expectation also in our home is that on weekends, we also rest hard. What do I mean by that? Is that on Saturdays, after all the responsibilities done, they can play video games. Sunday, church is a non-negotiable for us. Unless you're sick, we go to church on Sundays, just reminding us that we get to rest in God's goodness. And after church, we go home. We usually have pancakes. They get to play video games, watch football, watch basketball, and just rest. So I want to end with this story. It's about this conversation that I had with my oldest one. I think this happened about a year ago. And I remember we sat in his room and he said, you know what, Dad, if I can be honest with you, sometimes I feel that God is not real. Now, as a dad, as a follower of Jesus, my first instinct was to jump in, open up my Bible, and just show him in scriptures and also in my testimonies that God is real. But instead, I took a deep breath and said, you know what? I feel that way too, sometimes. And I told him that you're not alone. And there are even people in the Bible who doubted Jesus. But you know what's amazing? God didn't cancel them. He met them in their doubts. This moment wasn't about having the perfect answer. It was about letting my son know that it's okay to wrestle with faith, that God is big enough to handle these big questions, that God is big enough to handle these doubts, that the faith rhythm is not about perfection, but it's about progress. It's about consistency. Now, here's a cool thing that happened. So fast forward to about a few months ago, this happened, I think it was in August. He had his basketball tryouts. And he really wanted to play for his old coach. He really wanted to play for the old team. But then he found out that the basketball team that he wanted to play for this year, that their practice conflicted with his youth nights on Wednesdays. So without even skipping a beat, he said, Dad, I'm going to play for the other team because I don't want to miss youth night. I don't want to miss my time with learning more about Jesus. And that decision blew me away because it wasn't something that my wife and I forced or even suggested to him. That's something that he came up from his own heart. And it reminded me that faith rhythm aren't about perfection or control. They're about creating environments where our kids can experience God for themselves. I want to read this in Deuteronomy chapter 6. It says, talk about God's commands when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. That's what faith rhythm is. It's weaving God into the ordinary moments. When we do that, our kids learn that faith isn't something we believe. It's the way we live. So here's your challenge. Pick one faith rhythm and start today. Maybe it's a one-line prayer before school, or maybe it's asking your kids, hey, where do you see God working today? Or maybe it's planning a family rest on the weekend. Whatever it is, don't overthink it. Just start. And again, sometimes you'll get it right. Sometimes you'll fumble, but get back up. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. Here's the thing, Dad. The greatest legacy you can leave your kids is not what you build for them. It's the faith you build in them. I'm talking about us helping them draw closer to a growing relationship with Jesus. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me, especially in this 4-part series. If this episode helped you, do me a favor and share it with another dad who's trying to lead his family well. If you want more practical ways like this on how you can integrate faith, on how you can grow better as a leader in your homes and also in your workplace, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you so much again. I'll see you next time.